Well, good morning, you sexy little Mother Hubbards. It's time for an alternative paper review. To the Express first. Jenrick quits in revolt over PM's Rwanda deal. Indeed, this is the story that the immigration minister, who worked very closely with Suella Braverman, has quit. He's thrown his toys out the pram. He's like, do you know what? I can't deal with this Rwanda stuff. Not because he thinks it's a cruel, racist and cost-ineffective policy, you understand, but because the rehashed version, following the Supreme Court rejection of it last week, the tweaked version, he thinks, isn't cruel enough. This seems to be a sensibility shared by the Bravermanite right of the Conservative Party. Basically, the rehash deal with Rwanda, it now says, this will now be considered domestic law, that we could just send people over to Rwanda against their will when they're just trying to claim asylum. That will be considered domestic law, but it won't affect the parameters of international law. Magically, it will not even be considered by international lawyers and judges and The Hague. And everyone who has a brain is like reading this going, yeah, that's not really how international law works. That is like me calling a family meeting in a house, like, new rule for the house, guys. Anyone touches my coffee pods can pick themselves a plot in the garden. Like, you might wish that law existed in your little area, but you're still subject to the laws that govern the wider one that you're situated in. You understand? Anyway, Jenrick says this is a deal that goes against his principles. Right. Yeah, what a morally centred individual this must be. Oh, wait, no, yeah, it was him that brought in the decorators to make a children's refugee centre look less welcoming. He also rushed through a property planning approval to help the Daily Express's former owner, Richard Desmond, avoid £40 million in tax. Meanwhile, The Telegraph covers the inquiry appearance yesterday of one Boris Johnson. They say Johnson chokes with emotion as he recounts COVID tragedies. No, he didn't. I was watching it. There was no choking of emotion. There was no emotion. Unless you count contempt. Over to the Mail, who are also covering the Jenrick resignation. Though I really like this extra, like just above the headline here. It says, as minister quits over Rwanda bill just an hour after Rishi tells his MPs unite or die. Like, it really pulls it into focus. Like, the journalist Ava Evans put a tweet out last night where she was like, I think if I called all of my friends in, and sort of said, look, you need to get with, like, unite or die. And then they were like, do you know what? I think we're up for dying, thanks. Like, what would that do to your self-confidence? I replied back, I was like, I mean, I've had more humiliating experiences, but not many. While the Times say snacking Britons lose their appetite for 3 square meals a day. Right, this is the third headline, I think, front page, that they've done about junk food. This is just this week. KFC thwarts efforts to stop fast food outlets near schools. I was like, okay, well, seems like a common sense story. I don't know if it should be right at the top of page 1, but... then the day before that, economy pays heavy price as the UK gets fatter. Right, and then I think I remember talking about this, saying like, well, if we cared that much about like a hit on the economy, shouldn't we be talking about Brexit? Now we've got the third one. Snacking Britons lose their appetite for 3 square meals a day. There's 2 ways that you can look at this, that you could interpret this kind of coverage, right? The first is that the editors of The Times, appointed by Rupert Murdoch, have a deep-rooted sense of responsibility. And they want to warn people the dangers of junk food and snacking and all of that stuff. That this is coming from a good place. That's the first way you can interpret this. The second way you can interpret it, and call me a tinfoil hat conspiracy nut if you must, is that this is a campaign of soft PR designed to gently foment the idea that we are eating too many snacks, that our kids are all addicted to KFC, that our obesity is a problem, that it must be solved. There's got to be some solution to all of this, guys. And I suspect we will arrive at that solution sooner rather than later. Because they know that if they just came straight out the gate, pre-election, and they said something like, all right, guys, you asked us to solve the housing crisis and the cost of living crisis, well, get ready for the sugar tax. If they said that, there would be uproar. If they said they were going to de-scope obesity-related things from NHS coverage, people would be in the phone-in shows, they'd be guesting on Talk TV saying, well, my mum has this issue and she's paid tax all her life. This is an outrage. Like, somewhat ironically, if they force-fed you those policies straight off the bat, if you just gorged yourself silly on them. But if they just feed you these little tidbits, little snacks, if you will, if they just pepper the conversation the right amount, then in a year or 2 years, whenever the regulatory stuff comes up for renewal, then you too will have been manipulated and brainwashed. There'll be enough stuff going around your head, you'll be like, yeah, maybe we do need to look at this. Maybe I should be forced to jump on a treadmill for 5 hours a day and generate enough electricity that I power Britain. Wean us off of those cursed windmills and solar panels, god damn them.